the kick-ass switch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you're watching a video about healing the legacy of shame and the alchemy of the heart, which is a theme this week. I am right in the middle of doing a series of episodes on Hippie Witch, in which I talk about each of the 4 elements. So this week I was talking about the magic of water. And I meant that metaphorically. I was talking about the heart, love, emotions. So I wanted to kind of expand on that, but also drill into this one specific topic of healing ancestral shame, because I believe that shame is ancestral, whether it's passed down through a family line or a culture, or most likely both. I think in a sense, it's like a relay race of pain, where a race to nowhere, where each generation is like passing the baton of shame on to the next generation, and then they pick it up and carry it on to the next generation, and this baton of shame just keeps getting handed down generation after generation until one brave soul recognizes that this is going on and says, enough, the buck stops here, and with lots of love, lots of compassion, and empathy, and of course forgiveness, they put the baton down and walk away. They walk into the light and the love. Leonard Cohen has that great lyric where he says, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And I think that that applies to this too. This whole idea of being a light worker, what does that mean? For me, that has to do with shedding light on our shadows and bringing those hidden, shameful aspects of ourselves and our family lines and our culture into the light, so that we can love them up, embrace them, and integrate them into who we are without allowing them to control us and make decisions for us. And shame will do that if you don't shed some light on it. And I believe that the reason I'm talking about the alchemy of heart is I believe that the heart is a container for transmuting shame into love, and that the 2 magical ingredients for this are compassion and forgiveness. Put those ingredients into the mix, you shake it around, and magically your shame begins to transform into something that feels more like empathy and compassion and love. First and foremost for yourself, because it is in healing yourself that you heal future generations. And I think that parents are in a very special position in that they are in between generations. So if you are a parent, you probably have at some point injured your child emotionally, unfortunately. And most people don't want to look at this because it is extremely painful. It brings up all of our shame. But I invite you just to spend an afternoon or a morning or an evening, if you are a parent, maybe thinking about, you have one thing. I bet you have one thing that just makes you cringe, that you don't want to think about it. Something that you did to shame your child, and something that brings you shame, that makes you feel bad about yourself. And then when it gets interesting is you can take whatever it is you did, and then you can say, and how was I shamed in that way? How did my parent or caretaker growing up shame me in the exact same way? And then you will see the links between these 3 generations and how you are sitting in the middle of them. And hopefully it gives you compassion to see why your parents or caregivers did what they did. They were acting out of a sense of their own shame. They put that shame on you, and then you went and did it to your own kids. And you might think, oh, it's too late. I've already hurt my children and now they're going to carry on this legacy of shame. And it's so not true. In healing your own shame, in forgiving yourself, in feeling compassion, just sitting with those feelings, maybe journaling about it, but accepting that, yes, this is a reality. This happened. This is the legacy that I have carried on. And I forgive myself and I understand it. And I'm going to have some compassion for the generations that came before and for myself. When you really are able to get into compassion and forgiveness for yourself, your children will feel that. And you can apologize to them, obviously, and allow them to begin the forgiveness process for themselves. You get to be the role model. You get to be the person that starts a new chain of events. You get to pass on the baton of healing instead of the baton of shame. And I know I'm using a lot of metaphors here because talking about shame and healing shame, it calls for some metaphors, but it's really just about forgiveness, compassion, sitting with it. And I do not believe that there is one special chosen person who is meant to heal an entire family line. I think we're all that person. If you're alive on the planet, you are being given this opportunity and you can choose to heal. You can choose to forgive. You can choose to have compassion for yourself. And this is what I think really walking a witch's path is all about. This is why we have our tarot cards. This is why we have all these psycho-spiritual techniques that we employ. This is why we go on these nature walks and we observe nature and we observe the cycles of life, because there's lessons there. And it's not about manifesting what you want in the world materialistically. It can be, but to me, first and foremost, it's about things like healing ancestral shame. It's about know thyself, heal thyself, know thyself, and then heal thyself because you know thyself. And I'm gonna write more about this in the blog post down below, which I have been doing a lot of lately. So I hope that you're checking out the blogs. And tomorrow is spring equinox. I'm so excited about that. We're doing a lot of new psycho-spiritual work for this module in the Psycho-Spiritual Wheel of the Year program if you want to join us for that. And if not, I'm just happy you're watching my videos and reading my blog and listening to the radio show. It's there for you to listen to and tap into. I hope it triggers something wonderful in you in your own life. Oh, and that's another thing I mentioned on Tuesday's show, but something I wanted to say about healing shame is I think we've developed like a new brand of shame on the internet, like on Facebook, for example, where people start unfriending people or trying to shame them for posting content that they personally find triggering. So now it's like this whole like political correctness minefield of like, what can't I say, what's going to trigger other people, and I don't want to trigger this and that person, and I don't want to trigger that and that person, and everybody is holding everybody else responsible for their own shame. And I think it's interesting to look at our triggers in a new way as invitations from spirit. So when something is very triggering, instead of like freaking out and being like, oh, that triggered me and now I have this disorder or that, or it makes me feel this, perhaps you need the help of a therapist to do this, but maybe you can see those triggers as invitations to heal something. You can see it as something is now stepping forward in my consciousness. It's coming into the light because it wants to be healed, and I have a choice. I can heal it, that shame, perhaps it's a shame-based trigger, or I can do whatever addictions I engage in. I can engage in those addictions to push it back down so that it just gets triggered again. You're never gonna not stop getting triggered. if you don't deal with it. So you might as well see it as an invitation and deal with it the first time it triggers you, so that it doesn't trigger you again. It's an opportunity to heal. It's an invitation from spirit. So let me just tack that on to the end here, and I will be back next week talking at you. Until next time, much love. Peace.